Pierre wins Conservative leadership in Canada. Pierre won first ballot with a huge 68% lead, giving him the win. Pierre takes the stage to let Canadians know what he has in store for Canada's future. He touches on subjects on inflation, oil, housing, food costs, affordability for young Canadians, axing the Arrive can, ending vaccine mandates, and more importantly, our freedom. Here's the clip.
Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I have some results.
I have some results.
It's my great privilege to announce the results. Nous avons un nouveau chef. We have
a new leader.
The next Prime Minister of Canada, prochaine Premier Ministre de Canada.
The next Prime Minister of Canada.
And Anna Poilievre.
The Honorable Pierre Poilievre.
Peter Van Dusen watching along with you. We can tell you they announced Pierre Poilievre, and you can see he's the new leader, and he's done it on the first ballot with over 68% of the vote of Conservative Party members.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before I begin introducing my husband, allow me to express my sadness at the passing of our Queen. May she rest in peace. Long live the King. My husband and I share the same values, although our background is a little different. Mon mari et moi, nous partageons les mêmes valeurs.
My husband and I share the same values, but our life was is different.
In 1995, in a working-class neighborhood in the east end of Montreal, Hochelaga-Maisonneuve, puis Pointe-aux-Trembles. Je suis née à Caracas, Venezuela.
I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and my family emigrated here in 1995 in Montreal, in the Maisonneuve-Hochelaga area.
Un orgullo de poder ser una voz fuerte para el pueblo latino y para muchos inmigrantes. My father, he went from wearing business suits and managing a bank to jumping on the back of a pickup truck to collect fruits and vegetables because that's what he had to do to feed his family. Mon père est passé de porter des complets
My father, who was a bank manager, ended up getting on top of a pickup truck, and he went with old clothes, and he went to pick up vegetables to feed his family.
Taught us hard work, and that there is no greater dignity than to provide for your own family. La famille Galindo,
The Galindo family, which is here tonight, taught us that one has to work hard, and there's no greater dignity than to provide for your family.
My father is a small business owner, and my siblings went all from their humble beginnings, including me working at McDonald's, to being a renovator, a registered practical nurse, a proud member of the Canadian Air Forces, and here I am, la petite fille de Pointe-aux-Trembles, standing in front of you and by my husband's side. Dios mío, ¿quién se lo hubiera imaginado? Mon Dieu, qui aurait imaginé ça? My husband's story.
Who could have imagined that?
He was born in Calgary to a teenage mother who had just lost her own mother. She gave Pierre for adoption to two wonderful school teachers from Saskatchewan. And again, they're all present here tonight. L'histoire de mon mari est un peu différente.
The history of my husband is slightly different. He was born in Calgary of a teenage mother who had just lost her mother, and he was adopted by two wonderful teachers of elementary school in Saskatchewan who are here tonight.
Our families living paycheck to paycheck, knowing that filling your tank of gas, it is not a luxury, but a way of transportation to go to work and to bring your children to school. Donc, nous avons grandi.
So we grew up in a very similar manner. Our families were living from paycheck to paycheck, and if you fill the tank, it's not a luxury. It is how you can go to work and makes you able to take your children to school.
A good son, a wonderful
And
father, and a loving husband. This is the new leader of the Conservative Party of Canada et votre prochain Premier ministre.
And your next Prime Minister, my husband, Pierre Poilievre.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you indeed.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Merci, Anaïda. Je
Thank you,
t'aime.
Naida. I love you.
I begin on behalf of everyone here, expressing my sorrow at the passing of our beloved Queen. Two tiny words, the Queen. Yet on every continent, those two words conjure up more than a picture. They also express an idea, the idea of decency and duty. Elizabeth II, though she might have recoiled at the thought, was the world's most famous woman. Yet she was our queen, our sovereign, for almost half of our nation's existence. In her 22 visits here, yes, indeed, in her 22 visits here and her dealings with 13 prime ministers, she exhibited the virtues we most cherish: dignity, civility, humility, candor, and above all else, service. That's why her death, though not unexpected, is nonetheless shocking. We felt we knew her. We felt that her strengths were ours, the strengths of a country which, by good fortune and God's grace, we call home. And that, perhaps, is why I feel a small catch in my throat when I utter the words that no leader has stated in this country for over 7 decades: God save the King. Tonight begins the journey to replace an old government that costs you more and delivers you less with a new government that puts you first: your paycheck, your retirement, your home, your country. By tackling liberal inflation, We'll put you back in control of your life and your money. Le travail commence ce soir.
Work begins today, tonight, in order to replace this used old government which costs a lot, brings you less, with a new government who will give you first place, you, your paycheck, your house, your country.
En nous attaquant à l'inflation,
By fighting inflation, by giving you back control of your money and your country.
it's not my victory, it is yours, and I have so many people to thank. Merci à ceux et
Thank you
celles
to those who supported me,
volontaires.
who were volunteers who helped in this victory, and thank you to all other candidates for renewing our country. To Scott Akerson,
Simplifying and lowering taxes. Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you to Roman Baber for standing up for and making sacrifices for freedom for everybody. And thank you to his wonderful partner, Nancy, for championing children with autism. Thank you. Thank you to Leslyn Lewis for standing for family, faith, and freedom. And to her husband, John, for supporting her along the way. Yes. And thank you. And thank you to Jean Charest for your service to our country. And for ensuring that we still have a country that is united, in which we can call ourselves home. Thank you for fighting for Canada, Jean, when the nation's back was against the wall in the 1995 referendum. You stood with courage and passion. You defended our country, and our nation will ever be grateful for your work. Thank you. Absolutely. Ça fait à peu près 40 ans que
it's
Jean
been
est en politique.
about 40 years that Jean has been a politician, provincially, federally. It's difficult, but the real heroes are not the candidates. So often it's their families. Et c'est pourquoi
For those 4 decades, there have been countless occasions when her husband was fighting causes on behalf of all of us, when you had to carry the extra load and take the extra sacrifice, countless invisible sacrifices. And we as a nation, we as a party, we thank you, Michelle. Merci beaucoup.
thank you indeed, Michel.
To supporters of all of these fine candidates, I open my arms to you. Now, today, we are one party serving one country. Most importantly, thank you to my brilliant and beautiful wife. Merci à ma belle et brillante épouse.
Thank you to my brilliant and wonderful wife.
Été mon ancre.
She's been my anchor, my pillar throughout this crazy adventure. She made this possible. You are my best friend and the love of my life.
À la famille d'Anaïda qui a pris soin de nos enfants
The
lorsque nous
family,
étions
Anaida's family who looked after our children when we were on the road. You made this possible.
la famille di mia sposa e por su contribución a Canada. So that's all the Spanish I speak. If you ever come over to our house for one of our grand family gatherings, it's usually 20 Latinos and Latinas arguing, telling jokes, telling stories in Spanish, and one guy standing around having no idea what anyone else is saying. My wife's family not only raised this incredible woman, but they came to this country from Venezuela with almost nothing. And they have since started businesses, raised kids, served in the military, and like so many immigrant families, built our country. And I want to thank, yes. I want to thank my brother Patrick, my father Don, his partner Ross, my mother Marlene, and even my biological mother Jackie is here today. Yes. We're a complicated and mixed up bunch, like most families, like our country. I want to thank my parents, though. In particular, I want to thank my parents, 2 school teachers who adopted me from a teenage mother. They taught me that it didn't matter where I came from, but where I was going. It didn't matter who I knew, but what I could do. That is the hope I want my kids to inherit. But that hope has melted into worry for many. Today, people feel like they've lost control of their pocketbooks and their lives. The cost of government is driving up the cost of living. This government, this Liberal government, has doubled our national debt, adding more debt than all previous governments combined. That means another $500 billion bidding up the cost of the goods we buy and the interest we pay. Inflationary taxes increase those costs further. Now, they plan to triple the carbon tax on gas, heat, and everything else. Le coût du gouvernement augmente le coût de la vie.
The cost of government increases the cost of living, and this government has added to the national debt more than any other government throughout this history of our country. This is $500 billion, which are making all our costs and interest rates heavier.
And the more they spend, the more things cost. The result? Families downgrade their diets to cover the 10% year-over-year jump in food prices. Seniors delay their retirements and watch their life savings evaporate with inflation. 30-year-olds who did everything we asked them to do, got degrees, worked hard, are trapped in 400-square-foot apartments, or worse, their parents' basements, because house prices have doubled under this government. And those who do own homes are paying more interest on their mortgages, even though this government promised interest rates would not rise for years. Les mères monoparentales mettent de l'eau.
Single family mothers have to put water in the milk of their children in order to be able to face increases of 10% inflation, and retirees cannot afford to live, and the young people who did everything we wanted them to do, who studied and who sacrificed themselves, have to live in the basement of their parents' home.
Most are lucky to be just getting by. Many are falling behind. And there are people in this country who are just hanging on by a thread. These are citizens of our country. We are their servants. We owe them hope. They don't need a government that sneers at them, looks down on them, calls them names. They don't need a government to run their lives. They need a government that can run a passport office. They need a prime minister who hears them and offers them hope that they can, again, afford to buy a home, a car, pay their bills, afford food, have a secure retirement, and God forbid, even achieve their dreams if they work hard. They need a prime minister who will restore that hope, and I will be that prime minister. We will rekindle the hope that people's paychecks and savings can again buy a decent life. We will make government affordable so that life is affordable. We'll cap spending and cut waste to reverse inflationary deficits and taxes. That includes axing new taxes on your paycheck, gas, heat, and other essentials. It means fighting climate change with technology and not with taxes. We will restore hope that hard work will again pay off. Do you know that today, if a single mom with 3 kids earning $55,000 a year goes out and earns another dollar, she loses 80 cents of it to taxes and clawbacks, so she can't get ahead. I will reform programs and cut taxes so that when that single mother and people like her earn more, they keep more, and hard work always pays off in this country. Nous redonnons l'espoir que le travail devienne payant de nouveau.
Do want work to become a source of money and not of tax, so that people can keep the money they earn instead of losing everything for the government.
What cash buys. Think of it. If you've got 10 loaves of bread and $10, well, it's $1 a loaf. If you double the number of dollars to 20, but you still have 10 loaves of bread, well, then it's $2. You see, spending more doesn't get us more. We need to make more. So instead of doubling the money, let's double the bread. Let's remove the government gatekeepers to build more homes, grow more food, and produce more energy right here in Canada. We need to restore the hope of home ownership. Right now, youth and newcomers can't get a home because local government gatekeepers block housing with heavy fees and long delays for building permits, leaving us with the fewest houses per capita of any country in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. A Poilievre government will require big cities that want federal infrastructure money to speed up and lower the cost of permits and to approve affordable housing around all transit stations so that our young people can live there and don't even need to afford a car. We'll sell off 15% of the underutilized 37,000 federal buildings to turn them into housing and use the proceeds of sale to reduce our deficit. In other words, stop printing money, start building homes for our people. Speaking of homes, we must make stuff here at home again, here in Canada. Look, trade is great. Trade is just great. But we learned during COVID that we can't count on the rest of the world to take care of us. That is why we must be the best place on earth for workers and businesses to build factories, mine critical minerals for electric cars, and develop other resources. Right now, we lose wages because we import 130,000 barrels of overseas oil, mostly from dictators, every single day, even though we have the 3rd largest supply right here in Canada. And that is all because our government prefers dirty dictator oil to responsible Canadian energy. We will repeal this government's anti-energy laws and replace them with a law that protects our environment, consults First Nations, and gets things built. We will greenlight Newfoundland and Labrador's planned increase in oil production, which will allow us to fully replace every single barrel of oil we're importing from abroad. And within 5 years, we will set the goal to end dictator oil in Canada altogether.
Instead of helping Putin sell his natural gas to Europe in order to fund and finance his war against Ukraine, the Poilievre government will support projects such as GNL Québec because they know that there is hydroelectricity, which is a clean source of energy in Quebec, which can help also liquefied natural gas without pollution. so that some people prefer for money of natural gas to fund Putin's wars. I want this gas to help people, the welders, Jean-Baptiste Tremblay, the welders in Saguenay.
Manufacturing of minerals like lithium, cobalt, and copper to make electric cars and batteries. We will allow for technology to be unleashed here instead of our money to go to foreign dictatorships. And that also includes repatriating food production by standing with our farmers here at home. This government's high energy taxes and proposed fertilizer cuts will only drive food production abroad to more polluting foreign jurisdictions, which would have to then burn fuel to ship, train, and truck that food back to us. But didn't we learn how irresponsible it was to rely on the rest of the world to provide us with our essentials during COVID? A Poilievre government will repeal these taxes and fertilizer mandates to get out of the way and off the backs of our farmers so that we can grow affordable food, feed our people, and be the breadbasket of the world. We will restore to First Nations more control of their land, money, and decision-making, and those communities that want to develop resources and invite commerce to fight poverty will have an ally rather than an obstacle in me. We must remove other unneeded barriers by axing the disastrous ArriveCan app. And by ending the remaining COVID vaccine mandates to let people work and travel freely. Thank you. We will bring hope. We will bring hope to doctors, nurses, engineers, and others who are immigrants to this country but are blocked from working in their professions for no other reason than that they come from another country. We'll team up with provinces to guarantee that within 60 days, an immigrant applying to work in their profession will get a yes or no based on their tested abilities, not based on where they come from. We will back up 30,000 small study loans for those in need of time off work to study up to the Canadian standard. Enough talking, remove the gatekeepers to get more doctors, more nurses, more engineers, and more inflation-proof paychecks for our brilliant immigrants. And we will restore the hope of safe streets, a hope that has turned into fear in all too many places after killings in Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, and most recently, Saskatchewan. Weakened laws allow chronic and violent reoffenders out of prison early at great danger to our people. Instead of spending a fortune targeting licensed and law-abiding, trained and tested firearms owners, Conservatives will bolster the laws, bolster the borders, and put the real criminals in jail. And
we will restore hope to Quebecers so that they will regain control of their decisions and their lives instead of being controlled by a centralizing and woke government in Ottawa.
You know, French has a very special place in my heart. My father, who has French-Canadian origins and comes from a Franco-Saskatchewan village, has charged me with preserving French from when I was very young, when I grew up in Calgary. Unfortunately, I had too few opportunities to speak, so I have a lot of work to do. And now I am continuing to improve my French, a language I love so much, one of the founding languages of this country. With my wife, who is from Montreal, we are, in our turn, teaching our children to love it. They go to Francophone daycares. Baby Cruz and Valentina will have French as a first language, and their second language will be Spanish. After that, English will be their third language. I will go even further in talking about Quebec. I would say that Conservatives from around the country have a great deal to learn from Quebecers. Quebecers defend their heritage, their culture and language, and don't ever apologize for it. The Quebec nation is not woke. My government will not poke its nose into everything. A smaller federal government will help Quebec citizens and Canadian citizens grow.
Citizens who own their homes, build their dreams, raise their families, look out for their neighbors, and earn powerful paychecks and savings free from inflation and overtaxation. We will restore Canada's promise in a country where it doesn't matter who you love, or if your name is Smith or Singh, Martin or Mohammed, Chang or Charles. A country where the dreamer, the farmer, the worker, the entrepreneur, the survivor, the fighter, the ones who get knocked down but keep getting back up and keep going can achieve their purpose. A country where the son of a teenage mother adopted by 2 teachers can dare to run for Prime Minister of Canada. Absolutely. In the words of the great Canadian Prime Minister John Diefenbaker, I am a Canadian, a free Canadian, free to speak without fear, free to worship God in my own way, free to stand for what I think right, free to oppose what I believe wrong, free to choose those who shall govern my country. This heritage of freedom I pledge to uphold for myself and all of mankind. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
All right, Peter Van Dusen listening.